Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm Michael Kazilny, and you've probably guessed it, tough times never last, but tough people do. And, you know, I think the best way to attack every day is to not think about too much about the past or what may happen in the future. And that's why so many people suffer from mental health issues. We're thinking about too much. You know, we're thinking about all the stuff that happened in the past and, you know, how can we fix that? And then all these things happen today and what might happen. That's why so many people are suffering from depression, you know. I think there's millions of people in Australia suffering from depression. In the US, they're spending over $20 billion a year on antidepressants and the problem's increasing. What's happening to this world? I think the best way to approach it, you lovely people, is just to live for today. And tomorrow's another day. Live in day-type compartments and just try to inject a bit of fun into every single day. Try to laugh in the face of adversity. Gordon Ramsay's on the show tonight. This guy's a master chef from all over the world. You might have been at one of his restaurants. Well, you look like it. Welcome along.
Thank you,
The real
Michael.
story, folks, Ian Turnbull. He looks like an excellent and first-class professional, which he is, but he has suffered. He picked up his first cigarette and drink at 7 and suffered from addictions for over 30 years. And I was saying before, you look like a surfer who's just come out of the water, and you look fit and healthy.
Thank you. Yeah, flippantly, I've been using moisturiser for 30 years since I started shaving, and I think that's yielded some dividends in middle-aged.
You look good. You look good, Ian, which is great. But what an amazing story. You grew up and got onto the grog very early and stayed on it.
I grew up in an environment where alcohol was the common denominator within my parents' social and peer group. So I guess monkey see as monkey do. I picked it up very young and discovered I liked it, both alcohol and cigarettes, and it became quite a habitual thing to do when opportunities presented themselves.
Well, you've moved to a country full of alcoholics. So, you know, you're not the only one. A lot of people get smashed every weekends, don't they? And a lot of family violence in this country, a lot of drinking. And, you know, I've been pissed myself many times over the years, but we're getting better. And, you know, no, alcohol is a problem. I'm not really saying we're all alcoholics, but alcohol is a big problem in Australia, in the US, and also where you come from. But this is quite amazing, Ian. You went to school and did quite well, and you even went to college, and then you got into construction management.
Yes. Yeah, I can now see, looking with the benefit of hindsight, that I was a very sensitive child, quite introverted, and I picked up chroming, as known as, and petrol sniffing at quite a young age.
Yes.
Not knowing that it was a coping strategy. And I think that enabled me to get through my school years. My college years were probably alcohol years. So on one level I was functioning as an aspiring young white-collar worker, but on another level I was struggling to hold it all together. Completely unaware of it at the time, but I think if you're living that kind of a lifestyle where you lose control so frequently and to such a great extent that inevitably problems will follow.
You were so well spoken, Ian Turnbull. You're a first-class professional. You know, when I saw you, I thought this guy, he's got his Porsche outside, he's got his property portfolio, he's got his 5 girlfriends at his jet plane, you know.
I enjoy playing dress-up, I think that's all it is. I spent way too much on silk shirts when I was on a bender in Thailand a couple of years ago.
Wow, how was that? Was that like The Hangover?
That was post-marriage blowout, yes.
Wow. See, a lot of people do that, don't they? And why not? Go and have a bit of fun, escape, you know, and if you are going through a very difficult issue, go to Thailand and or Bali or something, you know. But quite amazing, Ian Turnbull was telling me he's a construction manager working, you know, at a very fast pace, probably took on too much. At home he's got a beautiful family and stuff, and they're suffering as well. But then he's not only drinking, but also going through the drugs and even injecting heroin. How did you, it's almost like 2 double lives, isn't it? Being able to work and then...
Well, my ego, and I guess a combination of that and denial, told me I was pushing the frontiers of human consciousness to new frontiers by using hard drugs, Class A drugs as they're known in the UK, and functioning as or maintaining the veneer of middle-class respectability, which is where I saw myself. That was the world I'd been born into,
The social
that
mask.
I felt obliged to maintain.
So you were going around like a lot of the other people. How are you? Great, I'm good too. You were putting on the front, the mask.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, a veneer of my own devising.
And
that
isn't
I
it
struggled
great,
to
even though
maintain.
you've gone through the difficult times, you're going through the fire, you smash the ego, but you've exposed yourself, which is beautiful. Give me a
Thank you.
exposed yourself, and that's the most beautiful thing you can do, folks. Be authentic. It's refreshing. Just be yourself and say the way it is. If you're feeling down, tell people you're feeling crap. You know, you don't need to make things out to be perfect all the time. And I found once you've broken that ego and you expose yourself, a lot of people are going to walk away, but more people are going to come to you, because if you're authentic and honest, brutally honest with people.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Michael. I
Yeah.
hope that I portray myself in an honest manner.
You're very authentic.
That's something that I would seek to do.
And you're a high achiever, I can tell that, and life will give you some great surprises very soon. And I know that you tried so hard with the drugs and the breakup and everything, that it's almost like there's too much came into your... the mind takes on too much, and especially being in your 40s, that's when we start getting mental health issues, anxiety, phobias, and it all, falls apart. And that's what happens to a lot of men in their 40s.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think I grew up with an anxiety neurosis, which my mother's still alive, and I hope she wouldn't be saddened to hear me say that it was probably a learned behaviour from her.
Right.
She grew up in wartime London,
Certainly.
living on a day-to-day basis through the Blitz, hiding under the kitchen table while bombs were dropping all around them. She would have been 5 or 6 when that was going on.
She brought that into the family, always worried about stuff. Is that right? She had the fear and anxiety?
She was and is a very fearful person, and I think that's something that I picked up as a young child.
Yes, you were very... I dare say at school you were one of the tough blokes, but you were a little bit shy almost.
Yeah, absolutely right. I'm not ashamed to admit that.
No.
I was bullied to an extent, more psychologically than physically.
I can tell you've got a beautiful heart, and unfortunately the people with the beautiful hearts usually try to get control, but now you're really wholesome, and we'll talk about your journey very shortly. Ian Turnbull, you're a good man. And you're good people too. Don't go away. We'll be back very shortly. Thank you very much for having me in your living room, everybody. I honour and respect you. Thank you very much. If you're going through some difficult issues, I hope you get much better very soon. I was just speaking to the great man, Ian Turnbull, and he's a decent fella, very authentic. He was saying, I've never been comfortably single, and there's so many people out there, tens of thousands. Recently I got back from New York, a lot of single people. I was reading an article, something like 40 million people chasing love, and a lot of people split up, and straight away they want to get into that next relationship and the next one, and they still haven't worked out all their shit from the other one, and and then more problems, more issues, and it almost snowballs, and then we end up in this, in this rut. And a rut's very much like a grave, isn't it? Except a grave's a bit smaller. So don't get into a rut if if you've just split up or you're going through the fire. The only way to get through it is to go through the fire. No need to get into the RSVP and sugar daddies and all that sort of rubbish, and check out, get the best photo taken of your body, and if you're a woman with the big boobs, and trying to attract that next partner into your life, unless you're fully healed yourself and you start pulling your own strings again, and you've really made friends with you, because you are really a wonderful and a beautiful person, and so are you.
Thank you.
So are you, my friend. And so I'm glad you're suffering now, because you have to. You've got to go through the fire, and you're almost there, and then all of a sudden, gee, the girls will be lining up for you. They're going to say, who's this bloke? Who's this good-looking bloke from England? And you'll just say, look, I'm suffering a bit, but I'm getting much better. And I think your future partner is going to love your authenticity.
Yeah, at this point in time, Michael, I don't even have a an eye towards a future partner.
No.
I remember I experienced a lot of loneliness in my 20s, primarily on account of my drug and alcohol use.
Sure.
I wasn't able to combine a satisfying and ongoing relationship with the way I chose to use and abuse drugs and alcohol.
I know.
So family life was fulfillment as I'd never known it. The loss of that, I think, it broke my heart. And since then I've realised...
You were married for 10 years, yep?
Yeah, 15.
15 years, four
the marriage
beautiful...
produced 4 children, yes.
Beautiful, congratulations, that's
Thank
beautiful.
you.
See, that's one thing you did, and you're a winner because you've got these 4 beautiful children in this world, so you still win.
Well, one thing I've come to realise is I never successfully achieved self-reliance.
No.
I always needed somebody else to depend on, codependency, as I think it's
Well, I think you're a carbon copy of me. You know,
Quite possibly.
It took me quite some time to grow up, and I felt loneliness along the way. But the thing is, folks, we're all like that, isn't it? We're always relying for somebody. Back in the old days, it's I'll look after you if you look after me. But really, live and let live. Almost you've got to be independent towards the good opinions of other people, and it doesn't matter what your partner does. It doesn't really matter because you can't control somebody, and somebody can't control you. So the people who come into our lives are just there for a temporary time, aren't they? Whether they leave earlier through the relationship or whether they leave when they die.
I guess so. On a philosophical level,
yes.
It would appear to be that way, but. I mean, I'd married with the intention of it being until one of us passed away.
Of course. You're a romantic, I know.
A romantic idealist, I guess,
Idealist, yes. You're beautiful, you wanted everything. But, every relationship has an expiry date. And I think the universe always strikes at your weakest point, And Ian Turnbull hasn't been fixed. So, unfortunately, you had to go... almost hit rock bottom to be by yourself in a country, you're not even from here. So now you're living in a caravan on a block of land by yourself, and you're so bloody lonely at night time, and you're not drinking, but you know what? You're getting stronger and more resilient.
You're putting words into my mouth, Michael.
Is it true?
Actually, when I put my head on the pillow at night, I'm actually quite pleased. If I've got through the day without using any drugs or alcohol, which is one day at a time the norm now.
Good.
I'm very satisfied. I'm not lonely.
No, that's great.
The caravan is a 1978 Bedford bus, which is magnificent.
So
converted into a motorhome.
Yeah.
In a beautiful part of semi-rural Melbourne.
You've got a good attitude. See how I'm putting this negative spin on it. And you're seeing the good things in life. See, I like that.
Absolutely. This is my wilderness period, I think.
Yeah.
And it's taught me, I came over to Australia with my family. My wife had some family here. Since the breakup, well, at the point where we broke up, I had no blood relations here apart from my daughters, my young daughters, and some friends in Alcoholics Anonymous, one of who's here with me tonight. He introduced me to a church community which I've become part of. And that again is something that I find very fulfilling, that I've come to a new country and slowly have built a network of loving, caring, supportive friends.
Nice.
And that is of huge value to me. It isn't the drinking circle at the pub that let you go when the money runs out or you decide you can't go to the pub quite as much. They're decent, wholesome people.
Lovely.
That I believe genuinely care about my well-being.
That's
and
great.
I'm very grateful for that.
And have you got a motor car?
I don't have a licence currently.
No.
An indiscretion a couple of years ago cost me my licence.
So, yeah.
So it's something. It's a future goal to be back on the road.
So, Ian, at one stage you had the nice house, had everything. Like we spoke last week, you said you lost it all, yeah? Sort of hitting rock bottom now, and but you're really finding yourself. You're finding yourself now, and you're fixing yourself.
It's difficult to define a rock bottom exactly because historically, I felt events and circumstances that I've experienced have been a rock bottom.
Yeah.
But then later situations have proved to be a deeper rock bottom, as
Yes.
it were. But I think I've gone as low as I ever want to go, and
Yeah.
the experience, the cliche, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. I was quite despairing at the end when my family ceased to be.
Have you still got contact with them?
I do, yes.
Nice.
Limited contact, but I do have contact.
Nice. So
I
they
have
still
a
care
close
for you.
relationship with my daughters.
Oh, that's
A
lovely.
healthy relationship
You see them,
with my
yeah?
daughters. Not fully, but I'm working on it.
Nice. And what are your plans work-wise? You thinking of getting back into the construction or?
Yeah, possibly. I'm open-minded.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of stress associated with construction management. As any construction managers would know, it's
A mate of mine,
of
yeah,
work to-
a mate of mine. I spoke to him today. She's very much like you, and yeah, he's he's had heart attacks, and I went to his workplace. A lot of stress, but we might talk about some of the tips from you about people who are going through more difficult times than you. We'll be back very shortly with Ian Turnbull on Tough Times Never Last. And welcome back to the show. I'm Michael Kazilny. I went to New York a few weeks ago there, and big city, amazing city, lots of people, a lot of depression there too, but a lot of happy people too. Met this old psychiatrist at a bar, and he lost his 26-year-old son to drugs, and his 8-year-old son died of leukemia. And he said, Michael, I'm suffering, you know, I was thinking of suiciding, and but he said, I still find life very exciting every day. And that's so true, isn't it? Sometimes even in the worst times, when we look back, there was that sense of excitement about it, wasn't there? Because life's all about uncertainty. We never know what day we're going to die, where it'll be, or the cause of our death. So I think life's so exciting because it's great to be alive.
Michael, it can be. I believe I've known the pit of depression and despair. I've experienced situations that many others have experienced, the loss of loved ones, parents, family, the challenges that life can throw at us all. Like my first daughter was very premature. That was a challenging time to get through. Yeah, it seems to be de rigueur these days. I've had a suicide attempt at 21, and
At 21?
I was in such a dark place, could see no light at the end of the tunnel, and made an attempt, as both of my friends have shared was their experience. It doesn't seem to be uncommon for that to be a rite of passage almost, that we find ourselves in such a dark place that the future seems too bleak to endure. I've known that.
Yes.
But I have similarly found life very exciting on occasion.
What was at 21 when you wanted that early departure? What were you planning on doing?
I injected myself with petrol.
With petrol?
I'd read that it was a killing method that the Nazis had used in the concentration camps.
Right.
So I injected myself in the back of the neck with a large syringe full of benzene, petrol.
Amazing.
Stunk of petrol for 2 weeks, but didn't die. Thankfully.
Thank God you didn't light up a smoke. God bless you. Isn't that amazing? What a decent, authentic bloke. Petrol. And one would think that would take your life, you know, and some people probably would have died from that, gone to the heart. You know, some people die of the most crazy things. And that's why I think we should really appreciate our lives, you know. Just, you know, some people just wake up one day, brain tumour, heart, you know, blood clot, all sorts of crazy things. Every day is a blessing, isn't it? Ah, we're still breathing. You know, sometimes there's no need to say anything, just to be grateful.
I agree with you that every day is a blessing, and I try and make a point of expressing a feeling of gratitude on a daily basis, because I've never regarded myself as a victim.
No.
I would prefer to see myself as a survivor who's had an interesting and challenging journey.
Yes.
It may not be that extraordinary. I've heard some far more traumatic life experiences than my own shared on your programme. Mine is what it is.
It is what it is, Ian.
It's been tough.
It's
and
the way you've interpreted it all.
part of my gratitude is that my experiences haven't been any more traumatic than they have, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense, folks, isn't it? Because there's no such thing as stress in the world, and there's no such thing as anxiety. It's only people having stressful thoughts and people having anxious thoughts, and it's really our emotional reaction to the life events, isn't it? Some people in Ian Turnbull's situation could have said, yeah, great, stress at work, I'll just have a few drinks and get pissed, take some cocaine, I'm still happy. Relationship bust up, well, it doesn't matter, you know, I'll see her, that'll sort itself out, I'll get a new wife. And they could have, you know, but it's really, we're dealing with a lovely emotional man who, you know, takes things to heart, and yeah, and people who are very kind-hearted, yeah, and do suffer more.
It's been put to me by many different people that I'm oversensitive, that I do seem to feel things quite intensely.
Sure.
And that in itself, I think, can lead to an overreaction in different areas, in terms of self-medication, in terms of dysfunctional coping strategies.
Yes.
And which can have knock-on effects in other areas of life.
Indeed. But, you know, the mind's such a complex organ, isn't it? I think, you know, folks, I think we're all broken in a way. You know, if you interview 10,000 people and spend a couple of days with them, just look in their eyes and ask them, and you'll see insecurities and people problems, and you know, we're all perfectly imperfect, Ian, don't you think?
Absolutely.
I'm perfectly imperfect, you know. All that time I spent in the police force, even then I think I was broken after that, seeing all those deaths and all those shootings and all those bashings, you know. I probably should have got some help after that, but I never, you know, they never said to get any help after seeing all the deaths and all the murders and stuff. And you just carry on, and you just have all this emotional baggage, you know, and then you go through a few relationship problems and a few financial issues and all the court dramas. But I suppose you just battle on and become a bit more resilient, and sometimes you have your good days and sometimes you have your dark days. And I suppose the big thing is not to stay down there, you know, not to stay down there, because then it becomes a very dark and lonely place.
I think if you can just see a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel, if you can put yourself around people that are gonna build you up rather than take you further down,
yes,
then we can overcome these things. We can overcome the very difficult challenges that life potentially can throw at us.
It's an exciting journey though, isn't it?
With the benefit of hindsight, I think when you're in a despairing time or a particularly difficult time, it can all seem rather bleak and empty, but when you come out the other side, as I believe I've done following my marriage, it was my first marriage, it was my first marriage breakup, probably the most intensely negative emotional experience of my life to date.
You're only a young fella. I can see a 24-year-old man in there, you know. You're just a young fella.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Your body's aged to 47, but you're deep down, you're only 24. But look, it's time to say goodnight. You're a lovely man. Everything will turn out fine. Everything's so impermanent, you know. Nothing, all the good stuff never lasts, and the bad stuff never lasts either. So you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay.
Thank you, Michael.
In a few months' time, you'll be here smiling, telling jokes, probably up on stage. Thank you very much for listening to Ian and myself, and hope we didn't bore you too much. Love and best wishes to all. We'll see you next week. Good night.